Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft episode today. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I'm really excited to have this chat with you today on basically forgiving yourself when you lose it. You know what I mean? I don't, and I'm not, just to be clear, I'm not saying that we can, obviously when somebody's abusive of someone else or causes harm to someone else, that's an entirely different thing. We have to take accountability and you know uh, self correct things and apologize and certainly not be, well, abusive is a whole other level, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about just we just snap, like everybody snaps, no matter how put together you are, and no matter how zenned out you are. We all have moments like that where maybe we didn't sleep well, maybe stuff's been building, and then all of a sudden we stub our toe on the coffee table in the dark, and out it comes. That's what I'm talking about. Just we just kind of lose our cool, and because often, especially when we are good people, we often feel terribly when that happens because we're overtired, not feeling well, maybe burnt out from work, or maybe a brand new parent, and we've been up all night for days and days and weeks, and then we just snap, and so that we call that human, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Because good people, we good people tend to beat ourselves up even more. And I'm not judging whether somebody's good or not. I'm just saying, if there's a person who kind of doesn't care as much, well, then obviously they're not going to beat themselves up. But those of us who do care about our own behavior and how it affects others and ourselves, then we're going to feel pretty lousy about having, basically a human moment. In fact, I think, there's certain different, contexts when this is apt to happen, but I would say, and certainly I'm thinking of young motherhood, for me, not that I snap a lot because I don't, but I'm human. And when you're just so exhausted. And then the other thing is expectations. So this could be in the workplace. Maybe somebody's not pulling their weight and you've been crushing it, and they're not noticing that she's sliding, and you're, pulling her end of it because you're a good person and you don't want her, her to have any kind of consequences for not pulling her weight on the team, or yeah, or maybe it's legit. Maybe she's going through something. Maybe she's not taking advantage either, but she's going through something, and you're just kind of pulling the weight. There's all kinds of situations where we can feel like we're just unappreciated, taken advantage of. And I think when we're feeling used and abused like that is when we're the most. I mean, there are other contexts, like I said, but we'll say one of the most common times to snap is when we're feeling like a walking freaking dish rag. And then, of course, adding to this, it can be all by itself, or it can be together with this, which probably have a volcano happening. And those of you who have listened to other episodes know that I'm in the Fast Mind Club, card carrying member. So is our youngest. And this is how I refer to ADHD, because I'm not into shame words. The whole word disorder should just be eradicated off the face of the earth, because shame words are stupid and they make us feel defective and not enough. And where does that get anybody? I don't know. So if you've got a difference in wiring, you're neurodivergent, such as those with ADHD or autism, and the mood, just again, they call them mood disorders. That's not my word for them, but like in that family, like bipolar, cyclothymia, dysthymia, and we can snap when we're just plain a little bit, tired, or thrown off, when our usual routine is messed up or something like that. So I know for me, with being in the Fast Mind Club, and actually I don't volcano often. That's what we call it in this house, my youngest and I. But usually for us, it's not deep. It rarely is it deep. It's just, for me. I'll just talk about myself here. For me, my most difficult emotion to manage effectively, or regulate, as we would say, is frustration. Anger too, but not nearly as much as just regular frustration. Just wanting it to come faster. I'm not patient. The good Lord put a lot of gifts in my gift bag when I was brought onto this earth, but patience is not one of them. So, especially if I'm putting in so much effort. I was super frustrated doing my dissertation because I had an angel on there, but I had a couple of we'll just leave that alone. but I was putting so much work and, energy, so much energy in it, and it wasn't the responses back were mud slow, and that just drove me insane. So it's no doubt that I had a few outbursts in my living room just pulling my hair out because it was so unjust. And injustice on a big level drives me nuts, and injustice on a little small level, seemingly small level like that. But injustice doesn't feel good, and I get so frustrated when fairness isn't happening. And so, we're talking about situations like that where it just isn't fair, doesn't make sense, isn't logical, isn't okay. And that's where it's really so important to wrap around ourselves with compassion. Also, if we're really trying to help somebody is another example, but they don't really want or need to be helped just yet. Especially that's definitely true, probably parent and child, maybe sibling to sibling if they're older and the youngest. Doesn't have to be oldest and youngest. The youngest can know it's better than the older one for sure. But when you've been down the road of whatever it is they're dealing with, best friends or whatever, and you're down the road a little further and you just can see it crystal clear, clearly that and they're just not doing it, and all this stuff can just be so frustrating. So the whole point of this is to let go. When you lose it, you lose it. Again, as long as the disclaimer is, as long as you're not harming somebody and you're storming around your living room. Not talking about saying, loose lips sink ships. Sometimes we say things when we're tired, and like a 2-year-old, hungry, angry, sick, tired, right? And then we got to apologize, take accountability, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times we just lose it, and it's usually over little shit, like really little shit. And then we end up beating ourselves up because of because too much came out of our mouths, and that's not good. Take care of business with whatever you need to say to do your best to smooth it over, make it better, bring love to it, right? Love and forgiveness, and then just let it go, because we call it human. And if it's not enough, let's say it was the various extra things to deal with, like anxiety, they definitely volcano to realize that if it's not enough to really struggle with or be challenged with anxiety or the fast mind club or bipolar or whatever, now you're beating yourself up on top of that because you think like, why can't I even control this, why can't I even control that? We call those secondary emotions, and it doesn't go anywhere good is the point. So what we're talking about is let it go, move on, move forward, and try to climb back up onto that high vibe frisbee where you're living your best life as your best high vibe self. Okay, and the next little bit is we can work on this in the bigger picture, because just like running, and I've used that example before, if we run most of the time, like 4 days a week or 5 days a week, the one day a week we don't, the effects are still, the effects are cumulative. So we sleep better, eat better, generally happier. Things bug us less, right? Because it's a cumulative effect. Well, this is true with other things. Like if because I'm definitely physically active for my body and also for my mind, anyway, just that just naturally, though also because I'm in the fast mind club, I really have to be committed to moving. In fact, shortly after I finish this podcast, I'm headed out to the woods with little Giovanni for a short one today, but I've got to move every day. And I've got to, like, if weather isn't great, then I've got, I mean, it's not my choice. I don't know. It's not my choice. I was going to say that for it's, everything's our choice. Um, Not everything's our choice. Anyway, what I was trying to say is if the weather isn't conducive to being outside, which is my favorite, skiing, running, walking, snowshoeing, whatever, then I've got a couple of pieces of exercise equipment downstairs, which is not my favorite, but I still have to move because I am so high energy. I don't like the word hyper. If I don't move, my insides are moving. They're constantly, constantly. So what I say to my family members, and now they know, is if you're seeing the hyper on the outside, you can't even imagine what it's like on the inside. And that can lead to outbursts too. And so it's super important to move and groove because it's such a great way to self regulate. So if you want a fewer outbursts and become a more peaceful person, exercises is one suggestion, something that you actually like to do, because if you don't like it, you're not going to do it. If it's a military drill on a treadmill, then you can't stand it, that's not going to work. Self discipline only goes so far. even just walking. Another thing, we've talked a lot about mindfulness and people who practice mindfulness for as little as 5 minutes a day. And that doesn't mean you have to sit still and add it to your to-do list. In fact, John Kabat-Zinn would say, if you feel like have to add it to your to-do list, you're not ready, because it's about being, not doing. So really, if you can just commit to being present for 5 minutes per day, you can do this in the shower. You can do it while you're washing the dishes, while you're walking the dog. You can just be, and less, far less apt to react and more apt to respond. And obviously, reacting is like knee jerky, the outburst thing, and responding is slow down, more observant, taking in the facts, taking deep breaths. Okay, so we have exercise, we have mindfulness. We also, gratitude rolls in there. You practice gratitude every day. You're also less apt to react and become more peaceful because you are feeling filled up and abundant. And also added to those three is breathing deeply, which is also to do with the mindfulness thing. But it's not just touchy feely; it's an automatic reset. And when I'm having a super fast mind day, it doesn't have to be negative. The monkey mind is anxiety, and that's one way. But I can also just be really excited, being flooded with ideas, excited to be on campus for that day. And what I do when I'm feeling super wound up and fast, on the way in, I'll pick a stop sign, Champlain's gorgeous campus, or a car that isn't going to move in the next 35 seconds, and I'll focus on the stop sign or the car that's parked, and just say, okay, from here to that stop sign, I'm going to breathe with intention, deep breaths in and deep breaths out, do my best to just ride the wave, ride the wave, ride the wave. And that takes maybe, let's say, let's say like a minute where the stop sign is, right? Then I have a few blocks, I can pick another stop sign. And the breathing thing is so underestimated because we need it, other than the obvious, just to reset. It takes our mind from out of next Tuesday or last Tuesday or 2 years ago or what's coming up in the meeting in 4 hours or whatever, and brings us immediately back into the moment. So if you want to become a more peaceful person with fewer outbursts or frustration fits, or we call them volcanoes in this house, then deep breathing as much as you can do. I have all kinds of tips and tricks for that. Breathing, mindfulness, gratitude, and exercise. And my last tip is to lower your bar to stress, because this is huge. So many people rush to these stress reduction, seminars and workshops and things. How can I take on more and handle it better? Like I'm juggling with three balls, like you watch them at the circus or whatever. How can you help me so I can juggle 5 or 6 or 7 balls in the air? No, that's not the way to go about it. At least not for your, better health and well-being. When we start to feel like everything's too much, that's a great moment to hit the pause button and reevaluate why you're doing what you're doing. If it's for other people, okay, right there's a good time to put the brakes on. Of course, there's different context for that, but if you're just like a gerbil in the wheel, because if you start to feel all panicky, rushed, harried, nervous, and overwhelmed, feeling like things are too much in that moment, here's the thing: they probably are. So those are my 5 tips for becoming a more peaceful person, and also being better able to, well, have fewer outbursts, and also be better able to let go of it when you lose it. Because when you're mindful and grateful, you're also less judgmental of yourself. And so when we become less judgmental of ourselves, we also become less judgmental of other people. So it helps us to let go of our own moments of losing it, and we also become more compassionate and empathetic when other people lose it too. Okay, that's it. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.